You're about to learn the massive tax savings between making your living through wages versus making your living through dividends or investments. Good morning, Internet. How's it going? Welcome back to Money and Life TV. I have a very, very special video for you guys today. A really fun one at that. I've been thinking about doing a video around this topic for such a long time, and I'm just finally getting to it now. Now, most of us we've probably heard the amazing story about compounding interest and how investing in dividend growth and all that can eventually make you wealthy slowly over time. But I bet you've never heard about the story of the incredible tax savings you can obtain by investing and making your living through dividends. We're going to look at that in this video real briefly and show you guys why I think dividend investing is so powerful. And this is a part of the reason I like to structure my investments this way, because not only will it provide me a residual income that has a very low risk of ever running out, but it can allow me to collect that income at virtually zero tax, or a very, very low tax rate compared to making your living through wages. Let's dive right into it, guys. Remember, if you like the video, make sure to drop a like. It really helps the channel out, and it gets this information out to more and more people. The numbers and the calculations we're looking at on screen have been verified using tax software. So I know the numbers are solid. We got solid numbers here. The examples I'll be showing you on screen, I've put it on tax forms so that you can see it's more transparent, and it's going to make more sense of how this all plays out. So you can see with a full, clear picture of the tax differences between wages, dividends, and things like that. So starting off on the second page of the 1040, that's where the numbers start to show up. We see that in this example, Chipper has, let me scroll down here. In this example, on page 2 of the 2018 1040, Chipper is showing $100,000 in wages.
Not a bad income, right?
Now, let's see how that plays out tax-wise. And for simplicity, let's just stick with that income. Let's pretend there's no other income sources at all, and how that plays out for Chipper's taxes. Okay, so first of all, in this example, Chipper is single, so that means he gets a standard deduction automatically of $12,000. So that standard deduction is going to reduce his overall taxable income. So his $100,000 in wages is reduced by $12,000, gives him a total of $88,000 in taxable income on line 10. Now, the tax that calculates on that on line 11 is $15,416. That is the tax that's the income tax Chipper pays on his wages. But what's not included here is Social Security and Medicare taxes, because the 1040 primarily just deals with income taxes, which is why you don't see that here. So from an income tax perspective, if Chipper made $100,000 in wages, he had a filing status as single, and no other credits or deductions, he would pay $15,416 in federal income taxes. None of the examples, just real quick, I'm not going to be showing state income taxes, because each state has very unique and different tax laws, and it would be impossible for me to cover that. So I'm just focusing on federal income taxes. But if there would be potentially be state income taxes on this income as well. Now we've seen the amount on the taxes on wages. Now let's move on over to dividends and see what the differences are. Let's start off with ordinary dividends. Okay, so this is example 2, ordinary dividends. Let me scroll down to where the tax form starts. Okay, so as you can see here, Chipper has no wages. Now Chipper is making all of his living through dividends. Important distinction here is on line 3A, you're seeing that there's qualified dividends, and right now we're saying Chipper doesn't have any qualified dividends, but Chipper has ordinary dividends on line 3B of $100,000. So $100,000 of wages, now $100,000 in dividends. Now these are ordinary dividends, and that's really important, because the reason these are ordinary dividends is it could be a couple things. One, either Chipper hasn't held on to those investments long enough for them to become qualified dividends. Two, maybe this is his income that's coming through real estate investment trust, which cannot get qualified dividend treatment. Or maybe it's coming through MLPs or something else where qualified dividend treatment may or may not be allowed. So maybe that's why. So those are some reasons why he would have $100,000 in ordinary dividends versus qualified dividends. And we're going to cover qualified dividends here a little bit more in just a moment. Okay, how does this play out? So once again, Chipper's filing status is single. Automatically he gets a $12,000 standard deduction. His income is reduced to $88,000, and he once again on line 11, his total tax is $15,416. Now you're saying, now I know what you're thinking. You're like, Mike, why show me this? It's exactly the same. Well, I'm going to show you that it's actually not in just a moment. Okay, so there's an important thing to remember here. So your wages, I've mentioned in previous videos on some of my tax videos, your wages are taxed at ordinary income rates. Same is true for ordinary dividends. If the dividends you're receiving are ordinary, they're taxed at the same rate for income taxes as your wages. So there's no tax advantages there. Not yet. But now watch what happens when we shift over from having ordinary dividends to having qualified dividends. Something magical happens. Okay, now we're looking at example 3. Chipper now has $100,000 in dividends, but right here, notice there's $100,000 now on line 3A, which means of those $100,000 in dividends, $100,000 of that is qualified. And the reason that's important is once you start to receive qualified dividends, you no longer pay taxes at ordinary income rates. That's a big thing. That's a big deal when it comes to taxes. Once you're receiving qualified dividends, you now get to pay taxes at capital gain rates, which is significantly less than ordinary rates that you would pay on ordinary dividends, other income, or like income on your wages. So let's watch how this plays out. And by the way, if you're not used to seeing tax forms, this is not saying that Chipper has $200,000 in dividend income. No. This is saying that of the $100,000 in dividends Chipper received, $100,000 of that amount is qualified. That's what that means, just to clarify, if there's any confusion. Okay, let's move on down the tax form. Once again, Chipper gets his standard deduction of $12,000 because he's filing single. Total taxable income of $88,000. But look at that tax difference. His tax difference, because now he's getting to pay taxes at capital gain rates, he only pays $7,410 in federal income taxes on that dividend income.
Dominating!
He's killing it tax-wise now. It's a huge tax savings. So when he was making wages, Chipper was paying $15,416, right? But now that he's receiving qualified dividends, he's only paying $7,410 in tax, which is an $8,000 tax savings, which on that amount, it's huge. It's like he virtually cut his taxes in half, is essentially what just happened there. So let's look at the summary page so you guys can see the real power of dividend investing. So I created this summary page that summarizes the 3 examples that we just looked at. We just looked at an example with wages, and that plays out where you have $15,416 in income tax. We looked at ordinary dividends and we looked at qualified dividends. The thing that's not mentioned here on wages, which is why it's from a tax standpoint, it's the worst way you can make your living, unfortunately, is through wages. I know, you've been told your whole life to go get a job and work hard for money. Well, from a tax standpoint, that is the worst thing you can do. Robert Kiyosaki, if you've read any of his books, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Cash Flow Quadrant, he says that if you want to be wealthy, or if you want to have a better chance of becoming wealthy, you want to either own your own business, make a living that way, and make your living through investments. And this is what he's actually talking about. Now, in his book, he doesn't list out examples like this, but this is from a real tax standpoint. By looking at real numbers, real examples, this is how that plays out. So not only do you pay less tax down here on the qualified dividend line of $7,410, if you take into account that your wages, not only are they subject to income taxes, but they're also subject to Social Security taxes and Medicare taxes. Just from these 3 things, if you were making your living through wages, you would pay $23,000 roughly in taxes, okay? Now, but if you look down here, qualified dividends, if you would pay, remember, dividends are not subject to Social Security and Medicare, so you completely avoid those taxes. And I call them taxes because who the hell knows if we're ever going to receive that money? Now, I'm 34 years old, and I've already been told that I'm only going to receive 75% of what I was promised. Not 100%, 75%, which means the generations who are younger than me are going to receive even less, which to me actually says that Social Security Medicare you're actually paying more tax than you think you are, because the likelihood of you ever seeing that money has been reduced, or we don't know, it's uncertain. So that's why in reality, we're all paying higher taxes on our income, especially if you're younger. The baby boomers and the generation before them, they entered the golden age of Social Security. But for us younger folks who are in our 30s, who are now younger and just starting off, who knows if we'll ever see that money. So I just want to point out these distinctions here, guys, of how big of a tax savings it really is if you can make your living through investments. So if you run the math, the total taxes from qualified dividend income due to capital gain tax rate treatment and by avoiding Social Security income taxes, or Social Security taxes and Medicare taxes, you would have a 68% less tax bill. Your tax bill is reduced by 68%. Holy crap. That is a huge savings. So not only can realistically, you could actually make less money through dividend income and still come out ahead because you're not paying as much tax as you used to under this example. I wanted to show you guys this because this is a huge reason why I invest for dividends, because I know as a CPA, and I've seen this on a couple people's tax returns where they're making buku bucks, like over $100,000 a year or near $100,000 a year in dividends, and they're hardly paying any tax at all because the majority of their dividends, they're qualified dividends. And it's a fantastic way to make a living where you don't have to worry so much about the ups and downs of the market, timing the market and all that, but it's like a residual income. It's a pension replacement in a sense. That mixed with some other investments can be very powerful for you, for your retirement and from a tax standpoint. All right, Internet, I really hope you found this information helpful. If you did, do me a huge favor, ladies and gentlemen, and crush that like button. Feel free to share this information with a friend, and if you have not already subscribed to our channel, make sure to do so. Usually make a new video once a week here on Money and Life TV, and we make videos around finances, investing, and taxes and more to help you become fiscally fit. With that being said, have a great week, everybody. I'll see you down in the comment section below. Leave your thoughts, your comments, your questions, whatever it may be down below, and I'll look forward to reading what you all have to say. See you in next week's video, guys. Live life uncaged. Peace.